Welcome, everyone, to a brand new episode of the Media Row podcast. I'm your host, Justin Miller. As always, a huge thank you to our supporters over there at 1701 East Grand Avenue in Des Moines, Kelly's Little Nipper. Make sure to get over there. Use that keyword in Woodley, and your first drink is on the house. When you go there, make sure to let them know that Media Row sent you. We have a lot to get to. If you can't tell, it's a Friday. Notes upon notes. We have Drake Davidson, the game we're going to be covering in Des Moines on Saturday. Iowa, Penn State, a game that lost some of its mojo from the preseason talk, just with what has all happened in Penn State in the last few days. You have Iowa State, who desperately needed a bye, have the weekend off to get healthy, figure some things out. But then we have our four huge college football games we're going to preview and pick. I know it hasn't been great. I'm going to be better. I promise you. I'm 2-2 last week, 3-3 the week before. We're stuck in that 500 mark. We got to get some wins here. And I promise you, going to try to be better. And then we have our four NFL games to finish up the show as well. But before we get to any of that, first off, thank you for joining us and thank you for supporting the show. But what could help us even more is if you hit that subscribe button. Go to YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. Wherever you get your podcasts, comment, rate, like on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and then just follow us all over social media. At Media Row Pod on Twitter is where you can see firsthand interviews with players and coaches even before they get put out on the show. Follow me at Justin_C Miller on Twitter. And now you can follow us on Instagram at Media Row Pod. It's bare right now, but we are going to build it up into something special, and you want to make sure you're jumped in and following along there. We're looking professional now. We have an Instagram. Let's go. But a lot to get to in today's show, so let's jump right into it with the game we're going to be at on Saturday, noon kickoff at Drake Stadium. Davidson taking on the Drake Bulldogs, and this is a game of just the top half PFL team and a bottom half PFL team. You have the Drake Bulldogs, one of three PFL teams left undefeated in conference. You have Dayton at 3-0, who Drake plays on the road November 15th. So mark that on your calendar. That could be a vital game going down the stretch. And they have Presbyterian, who's 2-0. Drake does not play in the regular season, but could see them in the postseason. Davidson, on the other hand, one of three PFL teams without a conference victory. They also allow the most points in conference play, averaging 45 points given up. And for Drake, I think their biggest key to this game, their biggest battle, will be mentally. You're coming off an emotional victory where Harry Balke kicked a 55-yard game-winning field goal all the way on the West Coast side of things with San Diego. A really tough team, a tough emotional battle, a gritty victory, the travel, all of that. And now when you look on paper, this is a game Drake should win handedly. Davidson is not a good team. They've struggled all year long. They're giving up 45-plus points a game. They have a young offensive line. They really try to run a two-quarterback scheme that hasn't shown great promise. They can't protect their quarterbacks. They give up a lot of passing yards. If you look on paper, Drake should win this game like they did against Valpo, where they just never felt any sort of issues, where they never felt like the game was going to let up. And that is the toughest thing if you're Coach Woodley, is making sure your team is mentally focused on this game. Making sure this team is treating it like they did San Diego, where you looked on paper and you knew it was going to be a battle, and you saw the history, you knew it was going to be a battle. That is the biggest key going into this weekend, is can Drake not defeat themselves against Davidson? But here's the positive about Drake. And on Wednesday's show with Coach Woodley, and if you missed it, you can go back and listen to Monday and Wednesday's shows. But with Woodley, I complimented his staff, his roster, just his team, about how every time we brought up a concern, they answered the call. Our biggest concern going into the Valpo game, for example, was, man, we haven't seen this defense perform to its standards. What does it go? It goes out there and has 7 sacks in one game. They answered the call. Last weekend, we're talking about the running game and how tough it'll be to get already a struggling run game going against the PFL's best rushing defense. What'd they go? They go out there and have their best rushing performance by Nick Herman and Luke Woodson. This team just continues to answer the call. And maybe the run game has found its groove. Nick Herman, 146 yards, 2 touchdowns in his last 2 games. He's averaging 73 yards a game. You look over there, finally Luke Woodson, who we all really respect and like. He's a team captain for a reason. Sounds like from Coach Woodley he could easily be a coach. But just hadn't seen him get his opportunities. And against San Diego, goes out there 55 yards, 1 touchdown, and also got it done on the receiving end with 27 receiving yards. This team continues to build, continues to improve. And as a Bulldog fan, as someone covering this team, that's all you want to see. Now, can they just get it all together? Can we get the passing game going? And there's going to be opportunities, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Can you get the running threats going with not only your running backs, but also with both quarterbacks and Inagawa and Chase Spellman? There's going to be plenty of opportunities for this team to put together a complete game. The defense has opportunities. The offense has opportunities. And I want to go through those. The opportunities Drake will have at hand are very similar to Valpo. I believe this game is going to play out like the Valpo game. Because you look stats and you watch these teams, maybe schematically, Valpo and Davidson are different, but you look at the stats and how they perform, very similar. Davidson, they're last against the rush in the PFL. They're allowing 245 yards a game. Drake now, the running backs until Nick Herman got in, against Valpo really struggled to get going. So hopefully that confidence boost that we got from San Diego, you'll see against Davidson and from the running backs. They're 10th against the pass, 252 yards. San Diego was last, and Drake still struggled. So now the concern shifts from the running game back over to the quarterback side of things. And we know Chase Spellman, again, isn't 100%. He's not going to be 100% all season long. But can he just get back into a groove of things? He now has 2 games under his belt after missing an entire month of football. And can he just get back into a groove? He looked a little better against San Diego, despite the stats still not getting to the point that we were expecting after that great week 1 performance. And Davidson, their offense is okay. They're 6th in passing, 9th in total offense, 8th in the rush. So what does Drake need to do? Number 1, don't beat yourselves. Limit turnovers. That was something Coach Woodley stressed on Wednesday, that he was talking to the team before the San Diego game of they had turned the ball over in every game. Even in that huge dominant victory in week 1 against Upper Iowa at home, remember Chase Spellman threw an interception on his very first drive in a Bulldog uniform. So limiting turnovers, because this is a game where Drake just can't beat themselves. Drake is better than Davidson. Now, Davidson can still win this game. We play these games for a reason. And one of the ways Davidson wins this game is causing Drake to turn over the ball and beat themselves. One of the other big keys, and this goes hand in hand with how I believe this will play out very similar to the Valpo game, is just get pressure on the opposing quarterback in Coulter Cleveland. Davidson is 3rd in most sacks allowed in the conference play. Valpo not far behind them. Drake went out there and absolutely dominated that offensive line of Valpo. I expect the same this Saturday at noon in Des Moines, because Drake's defensive line a little banged up, but still has the athleticism the size and the experience over Davidson. Davidson, a very young offensive line. And I think Drake can easily get pressure on Cleveland because I love the linebacker core. I think the secondary has grown. And then that defensive line, what they did against Valpo just gave me a lot of confidence in what they can do. Secondly, on top of having confidence in Drake's secondary, I don't in Davidson's. Davidson's secondary has struggled all season long. But can Drake get it to their playmakers? Both. In the first 2 out of 3 games, had 80-plus yards. Only had 29 against San Diego. San Diego struggles against the pass. Foley, 36 yards against San Diego. Only 5 receptions combined in the last 2 games. Spellman, Inagawa, whoever it is under center, needs to get the ball more often to their playmakers. And I'm sure that's part of the strategy. I'm sure defenses, part of their strategy is to limit that. But Drake has the players, has the talent to, I really think, overtake Davidson's secondary, where those guys should be a bigger factor this weekend. And then finally, the final thing I want to see from the Drake Bulldogs is just a complete game. We haven't seen it all year long. Against Upper Iowa, the passing game was there. You saw a great quarterback play. And then against South Dakota State, you're without your quarterback, and you saw that mentality of the identity of this team of never backing down. We talked about that on Wednesday with Woodley. South Dakota, just probably their worst performance all season long. Really nothing went right in that game. Then against Valpo, the defense explodes and carries the load for this Drake Bulldogs team. And then against San Diego, the running backs take charge. Now, can we get all of that in one game? This is a great and prime opportunity to get this full game experience where we see balance across the board. The defense is strong. The running game is strong. The playmakers in the passing game are getting open and getting opportunities. That is the biggest thing I want to see on Saturday at noon as Davidson takes on the Drake Bulldogs. Davidson 1-5 have really struggled this season. Drake 3-2, 2-0 in the PFL, have won 2 straight, just starting to look like they're not missing a beat when it comes to conference play and trying to win that 3rd straight title. Really excited for this game. I mean, I'm always excited for Drake games. Watching on ESPN Plus is fine. Maybe San Diego wasn't the best. Was worried that game was going to go into overtime and worried if that stadium even had lights. It was dark on ESPN Plus. We were watching it at the wedding, and it was hard. It was hard to see what was going on. But I'm happy to be back in the stadium. Make sure to follow along at Media Row Pod on Twitter for live updates. Make sure to comment along if you're following along with the game. And then lastly, the main reason you should follow is post-game interviews with Coach Woodley posted right there before we get to post them on the show the following Monday. So Drake taking on Davidson at noon. That is game 1 of our huge Friday breakdown. And now we move on to Iowa City. This game, I said it at the start of the show, it definitely lost some mojo, didn't it? Like, start of the year, Penn State's a number 2 team in the country. Iowa fans are losing their minds of, like, we get to be at home going up against a top 5 team in college football. Let's show them what Kinnick's about. Now, Kinnick never loses its mojo. If you haven't been to Kinnick, it's an awesome atmosphere. I was there actually in 2021 when Iowa beat Penn State in that huge top 4 matchup where they stormed the field. It was an amazing experience. Probably the best college football game I've ever been to. But while Kinnick doesn't lose its mojo, the game really did because you have Penn State, no coach, no starting quarterback, and on a 3-game slid and out of the top 25, out of the college football playoff conversation, out of the Big Ten championship conversation for sure. Just an absolute bust of a season. Awful, awful season. I'll say this, though. I had Iowa winning this game in preseason. It's one of those games where they had Oregon and Penn State coming to Kinnick. Iowa, I had a feeling, would lose to a team like Rutgers and somehow beat one of those two teams. I think Oregon's way too good and way too well coached to lose a game against Iowa. But Penn State, Franklin, I didn't trust. Haven't trusted all season long. In the preseason shows, I was sitting here going, why is Penn State ranked number 2? They haven't proven anything to me. And I still believe that. And ended up, I think, being a little right. So I had Iowa winning this game regardless. But now they have a freshman quarterback at Ethan Grunkmeyer, who your first true start is going to be on the road at Kinnick at night. Good luck. Good luck. It's tough for even experienced quarterbacks in that stadium. This crowd is going to be ruthless to Penn State. When you add fuel to them of like, now they get to make fun of you losing your coach, losing your quarterback. Like they will go all out on you. They don't care. There's no line at Kinnick. And so I have Iowa winning this game. 2.5. I mean, it's Iowa, so I'm not going to say they're going to blow out Penn State, even though that win against Wisconsin was incredible. Could not believe they absolutely destroyed the Badgers on the road. But I like Iowa. I think Gronowski looks better. It's what we've heard. I guess I should be saying is we've heard that he looks stronger and better in practice. I don't think who's under center really matters for Iowa. I think Hank Brown is talented. I think Gronowski is talented. Of course, you want your quarterback one out there, but the running game has been better, and that defense continues to improve, and that the defense is going to lead them to a victory on top of the crowd. So give me Iowa taking down Penn State. Moving on, this is where, so we had Iowa State, of course, on their bye, and I debated on just doing every ranked game. This is a weekend that if I had my buddy's wedding, like if last weekend and this weekend were flipped, I would actually be really upset. Last weekend, there weren't too many huge games that I was upset about missing, that I wasn't going to be fine with rewatching highlights and reading about later. But this is a weekend that you want to make sure you're on your couch watching. Go to the Drake game at noon, watch Drake and Davidson, watch that fun game, and then boom, be home by 2:30, and that's where you get to watch a lot of great games. 2:30 on is A+. Chef's kiss for college football. So the first game I want to get into with the national college football slate is number 5 Ole Miss at number 9 Georgia. The Bulldogs favored by 7.5. I do not believe Ole Miss is a top 5 team. Their offense is very talented, but look at who they've beaten and how they've won these games lately. They won by 3 against a bad Washington State team at home last week. They barely beat a Arkansas team that Notre Dame made them look like a D3 school. You have them squeaking out by 1 score against Kentucky, who has a losing record and is 15th in the SEC. Again, the offense is very talented for Ole Miss. Kiffin always has a solid offense. They're top 5 in SEC in every offensive category, top 2 in yards per game and passing yards per game. But then you look on the other side of the ball, the defense. Bottom 5 in yards allowed per game and rushing yards allowed per game. Now, Georgia's defense isn't much better, but they had opportunities to beat Alabama. They're in every game. They beat Tennessee, who is on fire offensively, on the road. They have proven to me more than Ole Miss defense has. And while Georgia's defense may not be great by any means, I still have so much confidence in Kirby Smart at home. You're still feeling like you have a chip on your shoulder after losing to Alabama. I think this game, Kirby Smart wins because I trust him over Kiffin. It's at Georgia. You have that chip on your shoulder. I think this game just will prove to everyone that Ole Miss does not deserve to be in the top 5. They're a talented team, but they are not a complete team. And I think they get knocked out on the road. And I like Georgia and the points at 7.5. Moving on, a lot of SEC matchups that are very good. You have number 11, Tennessee at number 6, Alabama. Bama, a 7.5 point favorite. Alabama might be the most improved team that we've seen this season. Week 1, you lose on the road to Florida State. And it was bad. It was bad. Like, I thought Bama was going to be out of the top 25 by week 4. Once SEC play started, if they were playing like that, they were going to be out of the top 25. But then you have Ty Simpson, who just all of a sudden locked in. Looked amazing on the road at Georgia. This game will be a better indicator, though. This game isn't going to prove really much about Alabama. I think it'll just prove if they are still improving or if maybe there are issues that we are missing after they have continued to win game after game. But this game will be more of an indicator for Tennessee because right now they're ranked 11th. They looked great in that first half against Georgia despite the loss. But other than that, with who they've played, I really don't know who this Tennessee team is. They beat UAB, a team that fired Trent Dilfer, their head coach. They beat MSU. They beat Arkansas. Since the Georgia loss, the combined record of their opponents is 8-10. They're not really playing anyone right now. So I think this game will be an indicator of where Tennessee truly is at this point in the season among the SEC best. I think Bama wins this game because I think they're a little more balanced offensively. Now, their leading rusher in Jam Miller is questionable, so that's a big note to keep in the back of your head. But even with Miller out, they've been leaning on Ty so much that I think he gets it done against Tennessee, who is a good defense and has a great secondary, but I still like Bama at home to win this game. So give me Bama and the points at 7.5. Should be a really fun one, though. I think that game, this is going to be a weekend where you need quad box. You're going to need it. And then to finish up our college football discussion, we have 20 USC at 13 Notre Dame. Notre Dame, a 9.5 point favorite over a top 20 team. I like Notre Dame a lot. I know people were so upset when they were 0-2 and still in the top 25. I said on this show, list me 20 teams better than Notre Dame. You can't. This is a really good team. If you watch Notre Dame, you know they deserve to be in the top 25 when they were at 0-2, and they just continue to prove people that were doubting them at that point wrong. They destroyed Arkansas on the road, and they've just cruised to 4 straight victories. Notre Dame has been playing incredible. USC looks good. They played really good against Michigan. They should have beat Illinois, but injuries and just couldn't get it done in the final seconds. USC is a good team, but Notre Dame is in that discussion of being a great team this year. Their 2 losses are to top 5 opponents by 1 score. Come on. I like Notre Dame. The 9.5 feels like a lot. So I like USC to cover, but I think Notre Dame controls this game. The thing with Notre Dame is you have Jeremiah Love, the best running back in college football, starting to find a groove. He started off slow against Miami and a few games after that, but man has really taken charge in the last 2 games, or last 3, I should say. 100 plus yards in the last 2 games, 5 touchdowns in the last 3. So give me Jeremiah Love and this Notre Dame team to take down USC at home in a really fun night game. Can't wait. So to recap, we got Notre Dame, Bama, Georgia, and Iowa as our 4 picks for this weekend. Hopefully we don't fall into the 500 trap once again. Let's move on, though, to the Sunday slate. We have our 4 top games and good weekend for NFL football. Should be a lot of fun. Seahawks play on Monday, so sorry. Not going to have them in my Sunday pick'ems. I know it was back-to-back weeks, and you guys loved that. But let's start with the game in England, which, by the way, not to sound like a, red, white, and blue American, why are we going over to England? But they are loading up on these travel games. And to be honest, I'm not a fan of them. I think it's great for the sport. Like, I understand why you do it. And it's cool. But if we're going to do it every weekend, it kind of loses, its uniqueness for me. And plus, too early. I'm trying to sleep in after staying up 24 straight hours watching college football the night before. But could be a good one over there in England. Rams at Jags. Don't know the status of Puka Nacua for the Rams, one of the best wide receivers in the league. But regardless, I have the Rams because, one, Stafford's been playing incredible if you haven't been able to watch him. Dude doesn't look like he's over the age of 40. The Jags' offensive line is awful. Seattle has a really good defensive line. I like Seattle's defensive line. I've said it constantly on this show as a homer. But watching that game last weekend, the Jags' offensive line made this defensive line for Seattle look like Legion of Boom Part 2. And I don't even know if they're to that point. I don't think they're to that point. The Rams' defensive line may not be great. They're going to eat up against the Jags. And if the Jags can protect Lawrence, maybe they win this game. But I don't see it happening. I think the Rams are too good, even without their best wide receiver. So give me the Rams on the road in England against the Jags. Now a really tough one in the AFC. You have Colts at Chargers. Colts, a team with all the momentum. One of the few teams with only one loss. You have one of the best running backs in the league in Taylor. And then you have Daniel Jones playing like an MVP candidate, not just only he's got the comeback player of the year locked up, but he could be contending for MVP at this point. They have all the momentum. I understand that with the Colts. But it really worries me that their defense is 22nd against the pass. And going up against a Chargers team where the last few weeks, man, they have gone away from whatever they were doing early on this season with Herbert and the passing game. I think this is a great weekend, and if they're going to beat the Colts, they have to stop trying to get cute and run the ball. They have to pass it, air it out, let Herbert cook. Let him cook. And I think the Chargers do because they're going to have to against the Colts. So I like the Chargers at home in an upset over the Colts. I know they're kind of the fun team to follow. They're a great story with Daniel Jones. But I like the Chargers to slow down that Colts momentum. Now our 2 NFC games for the weekend. You have Washington at Dallas. Man, Washington. Losing to the Bears in the fashion you did. That defense, it's just failing me. Every weekend I pick them. It's because I like the veteranship on that defense. It is not showing out. I know Dallas is a dumpster fire as well on the defensive side of the ball, but that offense at home is proven to be really strong. Dallas at home is really good. Dallas on the road is a completely different team. This game is in Dallas, so give me the Cowboys. And then the game of the weekend, I think, a possible NFC championship game. Tampa Bay Bucks at the Detroit Lions. Tampa Bay coming off of a huge victory against Seattle and San Francisco. And then you have Detroit trying to bounce back after an embarrassing Monday night loss or Sunday night loss to Kansas City. The Bucks, though, man, can they just have a game where they get their stars back? Not only do you lose Godwin, not only do you lose Evans, but then you lose the rookie of the year, the best young wide receiver in the game right now in Ibuka, and he's questionable. They have no wide receivers. Baker Mayfield is my MVP candidate for right now, and he's doing it with a banged up offense. And now that you lose Ibuka, possibly, I just don't have the confidence in this offense. I love Baker, love that attitude, but I don't think it'll be enough. Going on the road against Detroit, and Campbell is going to have this team ready to go to come back and revenge a loss, an embarrassing loss in Kansas City. So give me Detroit at home taking down the Bucs. And if it's right, we lose 2 of the 4 one-loss teams in the NFL. So I think Detroit bounces back. I think Dallas wins at home, Chargers win at home, and Rams take over the Jags in England. That will do it for our picks and previews. Always appreciate you guys so much for tuning in each and every week on the Media Row podcast. Seriously appreciate all of you. Appreciate Kelly's Little Nipper for their support. Make sure to follow us all over social media and on YouTube. And we will see you guys next week, as Monday we get to recap a wonderful weekend of college and pro football here in the state of Iowa. Cannot wait. We will see you on Monday for a brand new episode of the Media Row podcast.